People are talking about their jobs in a new way. New data has shown that the average number of digital meetings, emails, and chats over the course of the year has doubled. Workers are overworked and no longer able to see the boundary between work and everything else. This resulted in a new wave of questions about work-life balance, the work week as we define it today, and if we ever had a life outside of work to begin with. We also began to question the false stability we thought we had at our jobs. And for some, the identities we tied so closely to work became lifelines we were stripped of, or clung to even tighter than before. For context, a recent Microsoft survey showed that 40% of the global workforce considered leaving their employer this year. Stories of people leaving their high-paying, cushy jobs are all over the place. And even the New York Times has discussed what they call the YOLO economy. People are beginning to realize that careers are not all they're chalked up to be. That, perhaps, they never really wanted them to begin with. But not wanting a career? Isn't that the equivalent to failure? Or worse, laziness? We've been conditioned as Americans to believe we could do whatever we want. The world is our oyster. From an early age, we have career days. We choose jobs and dress up as astronauts or firemen to reinforce the ambition we're taught is good and necessary. We go to college because we're told it's the only way to be successful. Naturally, we want to be successful. What's the alternative? What was a dream ambition as a child became a real and daunting fear at early adulthood. And fear ingrained itself in every decision from that point forward. But we still had hope. College gave us that. It told us the programs we enrolled in would undoubtedly lead us directly towards the career we chose, the job we always wanted. But then we graduated. It turns out those cookie-cutter careers didn't exist, and the perfect dream job scenario was a rare or extinct species. Our high school and college counselors told us that we have a free choice of employers and careers. In reality, the scarcity of jobs and strong competition for desirable ones severely skews the decision-making process. In many markets, employees work particular jobs simply because they were forced to accept whatever work was available to them. In many cases, our need to pay the bills determines the job we choose to accept. We put so much stock in choosing our career. It feels like a life or death decision, or worse, a success or failure decision. But in the end, does it really matter which path we choose if the job market will choose which job we get, regardless of our education or desires? One might argue that this is in fact a false choice, or a false sense of control or freedom. If we do everything right, if we choose the right career, get the right education, land the right job, we'll be happy. But even if all those difficult steps are achieved, they don't guarantee what was promised. Of course, this scenario doesn't apply to everyone, but a lot of people are confused and scared to admit that horrible fact about themselves that seems to be the worst of all bad things you can say today. That they don't have a dream career job, and don't want one. If we don't know what we want to do with our lives, there's a barrage of self-help and personality quizzes to get us to the right career. Don't worry, we're told. Again and again we assume this is some sort of character flaw in us, that not wanting a career is a failure, or a laziness we're suffering from. Hustle culture forces us to think that working harder will dull or relieve the sense of helplessness or anxiety we have about our jobs. If we become entrepreneurs, influencers, or create our own business, then we wouldn't have to work for someone else. Then, and only then, would you achieve happiness. But isn't this just trading one anxiety for another, one form of work for another responsibility? Where you're even more accountable than when you worked for the big guy. Find what you love and sell it. That's how you achieve the life you want. Monetize your hobbies. But what if you don't have a hobby? Or, worse, what if forcing it to make money for you kills the thing you love? Assessing the value of your passion according to the amount of money it makes you is a scary thing. Surely, there must be another way. Why do we even think of work the way we do today? Why are career jobs such an integral part of our perception of success? Naturally, I turned to Wikipedia for the answer. The Oxford English Dictionary defines the word career as a person's course or progress through life, or a distinct portion of life. This definition relates career to a range of aspects of an individual's life, learning, and work. Career is also frequently understood to relate to the working aspects of an individual's life, as in career woman, for example. A third way in which the term career is used describes an occupation or a profession that usually involves special training or formal education, considered to be a person's life work. These definitions of a career seem strangely and inexplicably linked to the person's life itself and not neatly separated by that 9-to-5 boundary we call a job. The Bureau of Labor Statistics published a study from 2015 that looked at the number of jobs a person held between the ages of 18 and 50. According to the study, the average person has 12 jobs. In the 1950s and 60s, people usually held 1 or maybe 2 jobs in their lifetime. This is about the time that our current idea of the traditional career job came to be. In the 1950s, Donald Super created a career stage model that assumed careers were carried out in sustainable and stable organizations. He highlighted the importance of the self and its importance when planning your career. His 5 life and career development stages are a rough sketch of how we think about careers today. The idea is that through this process of self-awareness, we eventually move up the corporate ladder or organizational hierarchy to achieve greater rewards. Unfortunately, today, the self is so tied up in its rewards that an existing separation between the two has become obscure at best. The need to live up to this sort of structure has become a necessity, but this structure was developed when jobs were different things from what they are now. They were stable, secure, something to be relied upon. Today, most jobs are nothing like this. Even before last year, Americans always suffered from the constant fear of losing their jobs with only 2 weeks to prepare. In France, employers must give at least 1 month's notice to employees before terminating them. And that's if they worked 6 months to 2 years with the company. If they worked for over 2 years, they must give 2 months' notice. In Germany, the notice period is 4 weeks. In the Netherlands, an employee who has worked less than 5 years is entitled 1 month's notice. 2 weeks is tough. It breeds fear. Americans are not prepared financially to lose their jobs for extended periods of time, and so they often revert to any job that will take them quickly. The instability of this model not only breeds fear, economic insecurity, and stress, but it also breeds a festering sense of inadequacy and an inability to disconnect from a job that is often a financial lifeline. It's no wonder work has become an identity for us. Finding a career and following the path we thought would bring us happiness isn't working anymore. The stability it assumed no longer exists, and the lack of stability and fear it's created forces us into jobs we hate and a sense of failure for having chosen those jobs to begin with. Hustle culture and the need to monetize your passions hasn't helped. It still assumes this structure that we now know is faulty. So what if we didn't assume that jobs and careers were stable things, and that we needed them to better ourselves and receive the extrinsic rewards we crave as humans? What if our jobs and our careers weren't so closely connected to our self-worth? What if it wasn't failure not to want a career,